Hi.
Anyone have a question for Celtics President of Basketball Operations, Brad Stevens? Bobby.
Welcome back, Brad. Obviously bringing in 21 players to camp. Lonnie Walker coming in on a training camp deal. What was the thinking behind adding him to the roster, and what's the plan for his camp and maybe into the season?
Well, I think anytime you bring in, people to camp, obviously all the deals are a little bit different, but evaluate it and see how everything plays itself out, how it fits together, and how it all goes. But he's a guy that, was very excited to be here. I think his relationship with Derek, he's worked out with Drew a lot in previous summers. And I think that there was an eagerness to be around those guys and to try a new situation. And so, obviously he's got a lot of talent. He's done a lot of good things in the NBA, and we'll see how it fits and plays itself out. And just like we will with all the other 21 players on the roster.
Brad in the middle. Last offseason, all the talk was getting that 18th banner and what this team can accomplish. We look back at last year, it was literally on right after you got Drew in the building. Now all the talk's been defending that title and repeating, especially with you guys still having that core intact. Where do you get the confidence from Joe, from the Jays, from this group, that they can get back to being on the doorstep of repeating?
Well, it's all the talk outside of here, as it was last year. I think the talk inside of here is you mention it once and then you just focus on the day. Try to get better, try to improve, realize what's ahead. I think Joe has done a really good job along with our team of, they understand the target they have. They understand how human nature will play a role against you. They understand that it's going to be very difficult to win the first game, win the second game, and play 82 of them, and then see where you land after that. They've been through it. What we should have is the confidence to get through anything if we have the right mentality and mindset. But that's, you got to have it. Everybody's going to eagerly anticipate a new season right now today, the defending champs and everybody else. And then reality hits you, and, the third practice, you're a little bit more sore. And then you've got your first game, and you see how that goes. And, some guys play, don't play. Locker rooms start to, not be as jovial as they once were. And people start to separate themselves, and teams start to separate themselves. But you got to do it again. So this is the challenge. Focus on what we need to do today to start that journey and do it again.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead. Brad, with you guys have a ton of continuity here for the roster coming back, but there is a level of change that's upcoming with the ownership, change potentially coming as soon as during the season. How are you and your staff just managing that, handling that situation, the uncertainty that comes with that, knowing obviously you're focused on the present, but what does change could impact the franchise from years to come?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much that we are doing. Obviously, it's out of our hands. As I've said before, I'm super thankful to Wick and Irv and their family for everything they've done for us throughout this entire tenure, and our great investor group that we have. We've had really good leadership around here, and they've basically said, hey, obviously, we've put a team together. This has been a long-term plan to be where we are right now. Plans don't always go the way you want them to. This one so far has been pretty smooth, but there will always be challenges that come along with that. But I think it's the way that they've phrased it to me from the standpoint of since the sale was announced was we just need to keep doing what we're doing, and business as usual, and do what you can to build the best team that we can, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Thanks. Hey, Brad, how is the health of your roster? Thinking obviously about Kristaps, but any other players who may have had things in the offseason,
Yeah, good.
starting and then beyond.
I'm really encouraged by the health of our team. I mean, we had Kristaps obviously had the surgery that was well documented after the year, and seems to be recovering well. He's very optimistic. I think I don't know that we're interested in putting a timeline on him because the injury is unique. But as far as how he feels and the progress that he's made, I'd say we're very, very pleased with where he is, and maybe a little surprised. And then I'd say Xavier had a knee scope in the end of July and is doing great, and will be full go for practice tomorrow, and has been playing the last last week or so. And then Luke, as many of you know, had the wrist operated on right after the season. Same thing, cleared to play. And so those timelines matched up well with the start of the season, obviously with some big depth issues potentially. So we're fortunate, and our training staff and those guys, with the effort they put in to get back, have both done a really good job of building it up so that they're ready to go when we need them to be ready to go tomorrow.
Hey, Brad, you mentioned a few minutes ago, you used the term human nature. Training camp starts, muscles start to hurt and so forth. Can you expand on human nature? Is that external forces? Is that players in the locker room competing? Is that players seeing stuff in the papers and online and social media and so forth? What is human nature?
I think in our situation, when you win it, and I've only lived it once where you were treated like you won it, which was when we got beat by Duke in the championship game when I was at Butler. You get pat on the back all summer, and you get told how great you are. And I think that one of the things that you just have to recognize is, like, all the things that you embraced the last season and all the things you say you're about will be tested at a greater level. And so, if you're really about that, then you elevate yourself even higher. And so with that comes, obviously you have 29 other teams in the NBA. They're watching the finals. They're going through the plays in the finals. They're going through the actions. They're going through what teams look like, what they like to do, and preparing to try to be one of those teams and try to beat you when they get their opportunity to do so. And so that should heighten your focus. But at the same time, it's a little bit of a, it's a little bit ironic when considered that everywhere else you go, you're being told how great you are. And I think you just have to balance it with what's real. And what's real is the margin for error of winning small, and you have to give everything you have every day to be the best you can every time you take that court. We won't always be perfect. I'm sure we'll get drilled in a game early this season, and I'm sure we'll have our moments where we play really well. But the question is how can we stay consistent, and are we about the things that we embraced last year to get there? Do we sacrifice for one another? Are we willing to take everybody's best shot? Do we look at it as a fun challenge? Like, for me, this is as good of a challenge as you get if you're a competitor. So we should be excited about it.
Brad, you've seen the way the collective bargaining agreement has kind of pulled some good teams apart over the last year or so. Is there any more sense of urgency for you to try to get this team to win now before the realities of the finances kick in?
Yeah, I think you always feel a great sense of urgency to win and to put yourself in the mix, and we've been lucky to be sustainably in the mix. And so, I will say with the new CBA and the basketball penalties that are associated with it, and certainly the upper tax brackets that can be associated with, especially when you get into the repeater tax, I think that those are all things that we have to obviously be super aware of to continue to try to put the best product we can on the floor. And yes, there are some real challenges that will come with that. Obviously, we're in an age and stage and a group that we think has a chance to be in the mix, and so we'd like to take advantage of that while we can.
Hi, Brett. I was just curious, as a coach who, you had an 8-year run here, Danny threw his support behind you, Doc had 9, Danny threw his support behind Doc, Joe's going into year 3, you threw your support in his first year behind him. How important has continuity been at the top? And then also, especially in a league where a lot of coaches don't get a year 3, how big is it for him to have that kind of time to just kind of develop with a group?
That's a good question. I mean, when I got offered the job with the Celtics to be the coach in 2013, it took me 9 days to decide to do it. it seems like a no-brainer to people, when you talk about the Celtics, right? How much of an honor and how flattering it is to get called by a team with this tradition and in this city where it matters this much. But, the most important question that I wanted to know was like, who am I working with, and how committed are they to the process that it takes to be good, and how patient are we with going through the ups and downs of that process. And there's some painful times, and the pain only increases when you're really good, right? It's not that bad when you're just kind of trying to figure out if you're any good, right? And I would give Wick and Pags and Danny and everybody in here an unbelievable, they've just been exactly what I thought when I came. And so the answer is, I do think that it's important not to ride the roller coaster. It's important to evaluate things evenly. It's important to see it, listen to every perspective, but also do it without emotion. And we've got a lot of good leaders in this organization, and it goes well beyond just the people that I mentioned. Obviously, Zaren's been here 20 some odd years. Jeff, how many years have you been here now? 44th year. Like, we have unbelievable continuity at every part of the organization, and I do think it builds a pride, a responsibility, and you feel indebted to make it work for the person next to you, and that's a good thing. If you've got the right people in the room, obviously there's times where you don't, but we're lucky that we do.
That kind of goes along with my question. You bring back this roster almost in its entirety, and you speak about continuity. And from your experience as a coach to now the man making the decisions, why was that such an important thing, a priority for you?
Well, I generally would say I wouldn't mind a tweak or two, just because I think that those things can galvanize you, can give you a jolt, can give you the juice that you need. I think that these guys are galvanized by each other. And I think that this group, and it's not completely the same. I mean, we've got a couple guys that aren't here that were awesome for us. But obviously with the draft and things like that, we have to look at ways where we can both balance being really good at the top of our roster, but building in with some young players that we hopefully can grow and develop and can be good fits with our roster as we move forward. But I do think that these guys, they have a unique chemistry that I truly believe matters. And, they deserve the opportunity to attack this challenge together.
Final question, Brad, we saw you after Game 5 celebrate a little bit. You let loose a little bit. And
shocker.
Yeah, it is shocking. But did you enjoy, how long did it take you to kind of look in the mirror and go, I put together a championship team? And then how long was it straight back to business? Because you're about the business. And how long did you, and what's the process like of keeping a championship team different from building a championship team?
Well, those might all be different questions. I think I would say the first part is I know I sound like a broken record, maybe on purpose, is we want to be in the mix. We want to have a chance. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but we want to be one of those teams that you can truly point at that says they have a chance, right? So I think that whether you're building that, whether you're trying to sustain that, that's about the people in the room, the adaptability of your coaches, and the ability of the team to stay together and become the best version of itself. And I feel good about all of those things, and that's why I think we're in the mix. As far as me goes, I was always curious probably how that would feel. Obviously the moment, the elation of winning in that given night, the parade and how truly incredible that was, and seeing the happiness and the people in Boston that all flooded the streets. That was special. I would say that after that, it's been business as usual, which I'm kind of thankful for, because you go through all these seasons and you're like, it's a season shouldn't be defined as good or bad, whether you're the last one standing or not. Sometimes you maximize yourself and you're not. So I think that there was also a level of like satisfaction of, this doesn't feel much different. Right, we're just trying to put our best foot forward. We're going to try to do it again. for the last team standing, great. And there are a lot of cool things that come with that. But like I didn't get to take the trophy all summer. No one offered it to me. So maybe I'll get it eventually sometime down the road. But or maybe that's the next target, right? You got to get another one in a year or two to get a chance to take it for a day. But I do think that these are things that you try your best to just stay in the moment, do your job as well as you can. And if the results end up being what they are, that's pretty sweet. But if they're not, you stay even and you try to make it the best you can the next time. Thank you, Brad. Thanks.